Welcome. I'm here, Jane Mountrose, with my special guest, Debbie N. Goldberg. And I'm excited to announce for Soulful Living, today's strategy is return to love. And I'm so excited. It's obviously, I think you can see hearts all around both of our rooms. It's a subject that we both really resonate with. And let me tell you a little bit first about us and about Deb. Soulful Living provides timely keys and solutions for open minded people who want to create more joyful, meaningful, and prosperous lives. With 3 decades of experience in the fields of holistic life coaching and healing, my husband Philip and I also are published authors, trainers, coaches, and founding directors of IHP, the International Association of Holistic Practitioners. IHP is part of Awakenings Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating a more loving world where the unique gifts that each individual brings are honored and nurtured. Each Sunday, we discuss a single spiritually focused strategy for living more soulfully. As mentioned, today's strategy is return to love. We hope you can join us often and start your week off right with fresh ideas you can use more soulfully. So I'm also so pleased to tell you a little bit more about Debbie Goldberg. Deb is a retired therapist who practiced 18 years providing treatments for mental health and substance abuse. She's worked in a variety of settings and is now in private practice as a divine therapist and spiritual teacher. Debbie was spiritually awakened by Jesus and taught God's universal divine love and wisdom. These conversations transformed her life and set her on a course of self discovery through divine introspection with God. She believes that you can heal or understand your true identity without the love and truth that comes from a one-on-one with it. I would think it would be with the love and truth that comes from a one-on-one intimate relationship with God. This ultimately leads you to your divine calling. Debbie's authority is connecting people to the divine relationship of oneness within, as it ends the faulty belief of separation from God that creates pain and suffering. As a part of fulfilling her purpose, Deb has written a number of books, including two 3-volume book series called Creating a Life Worth Living, first edition for the spiritual beginning, and A Divinely Ordered Life, second edition for the more advanced seeker. And there's a lot more. Deb was a video podcast host on Angel Heart Radio and on Enlightened World Network. She's been involved with programming for Enlightened World Network and participated in several live video broadcasts. Um, I also wanted to start our conversation with a quote, a message actually that I just noticed on Deb's page on Facebook that I think is a nice introduction to her and to the topic that we're going to talk about today. So here it is. This is a quote from Deb. You've been blessed with a heart to love fully, talents and gifts. You are guided with tender, loving care and direction. You are a miracle and filled with enormous power that resides in your heart. Your spiritual journey is about learning these things about yourself and embracing them. You have a beautiful light and are affecting the whole every step of the way. However, once you have accomplished stepping into your God-given wholeness, you then express the love and talents you have been given, gracing others in your own unique way, so they wake up, open their hearts, feel divine love, and get started on their own journey. We are here. We are the answers to God's prayers. I thought that was so beautiful. So, Deb, welcome. And I'd like it if you would like to start by just sharing a little bit more, maybe about yourself and about the tip, which actually comes from Deb, Return to Love, and
Uh,
why that's important to you.
Thank you so much for having me here again, Jane. I love spending time with you. As you said, we're both like-minded in the way that we feel about returning back to love, to your heart. Uh, a little bit about me is I, like my bio said, I was awoken in 2014 by Jesus during a meditation. And basically, what that awakening was all about is returning to love, returning home. With me not having any awareness that there was a whole spiritual world out there that
Right.
uh, I was completely confused, lost in the abyss of earth, and not understanding what divine love really was. So uh, that whole awakening with me was teaching me what divine love is,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're all here to remember what that is, to return home. And when you start to understand who you are and how much you're loved, it completely changes your life. It changed mine, and it changes everybody that I've spoken to that has gone through some kind of their own similar awakening. It creates a lot of peace inside of you. All the things that actually all of us hope for,
Right.
that we don't realize are really kind of right at our fingertips, and it's within ourselves, that we keep looking at outside of ourselves to be fulfilled, with love and peace and joy, when actually it's our natural state.
Right. Right. And that's what we don't realize. It took me a while actually to fully grasp that actually it's the separation from God and the separation from love, divine love, and from the truth of who we are that is the illusion. The thing that we think is most real. That this is, this kind of this physical reality is most of what there is here. That's the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And it just all of a sudden really struck me that it is, it's just because we think we're separate
Mm-hmm.
that we aren't actually. I can't even say we because we think we're separate. We are
Mm-hmm.
in a way where we think we're separate, so we are in our own minds. But there never is, the separation is never there. The potential to be connected with our source, and however you want to understand it, to be connected to God and to the truth of who we are, which is really, I think, the essence of the journey, understanding who we are. It's right here. It's always here.
It is always right here, but we keep missing it. It keeps missing us. It's like
So crazy.
it feels like a crazy experience when you find out the truth of who you are, and then your mind plays games with you, which we call ego, and keeps moving you like in a trance state, just keeps moving you out of understanding that you are the presence of God, and there's no separation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everything in this world teaches us separation. Our body teaches us separation. Uh, and even when, like you said, it takes a long time to integrate. Actually, the word is believe, because it comes down to believing and knowing truth. And no matter where your mind tries to take you, that you keep coming back to that truth.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And that's the, I think, the challenge. I've told the story here and there about kind of how my awakening has evolved over the years, and I started having a connection with guidance that I actually relied on for many years. It was just I had a name for my guide and asked questions and received responses, and then at a certain point my guide wasn't there anymore, and someone else was there. And there were a couple different little phases to that, but in a very short time it was God who was there. And that was hard for me to accept. It was hard for me to accept, I think, because of my limited perspective on myself. And I think that really is the essence of the challenge for us, is to understand that if there is no separation between us and our creator, then we all have that connection, however we want to express it or to connect with it. But it in itself, it's very simple. We're the ones who make it complicated.
We do, but I love that story. That I love your story of how that connection occurred, um, and how for many people, we're using the term God for divine love. You can call it whatever you want, because divine love answers to whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For me, it's God. It's our creator. It's it is the creator of all creation, and we're part of that creation. We are the essence and presence of God. Um, Getting that in your mind, well, first of all, trying to understand that is difficult. Even though you're learning all of this truth, it's difficult. And then you're constantly challenged during each day that pulls you away from that thinking, to make you feel separate again, to make you think that you're just this body, or and the person, this person who you think you are.
Right.
And it can be a real struggle. um, but that's what this show is called, is Return to Love, because one of the messages that I get frustrated with that. I get frustrated when I move out of presence and I move back into some random thought process that's not true. And I keep asking God, can you please just keep me here? So I stop drifting away. I get frustrated that I keep drifting away. And all I hear is, all you have to do is just return home. You just need to come back and come back and come back. Whether it's 1,000 times a day you catch yourself, just keep coming back, because you're coming back to the truth. You're coming back home, to the home that you've never left, but feel like you have.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think one thing that has helped me understanding the nature of love is, and these are these things, I don't know, it takes me a while, I guess, to understand things, but it was just a few years ago I decided, well, I've never really thought about it, but how would I define love? And it's interesting if you ask yourself that question, because it to me, when I asked it, then it was connectedness. Love is connectedness. When we love someone or something, we feel fully connected. There is no reservation about there being separation between us. Like if you love a dog or something, you just hug them, you love them, you're connected.
Mhm.
And a child or each other, I just, you and me, I mean, we could love each other, and I think we do. And it just, without reservation, um, then we are connected. And the same is true for our relationship with, you could say also, with the soul. We have a soul. And it's the same thing. If you're in that state of a loving state of connectedness, then you have that connectedness with your soul and with your source. So it's to me, I think over the years, and especially now, it has become very simple.
Mhm.
Just like, and we've actually, Deb and I, we were talking before we started about how we focus on love, and you can see probably in both of our environments there's a lot of suggestions of love around us. And we wear it in jewelry. It's just something where it becomes second nature to relate to things from that perspective. And I think it is good to wear hearts
Mhm.
personally, because it bears that energy of connectedness.
Mhm.
So,
I love the description of connectedness. I think that's such a beautiful descriptor word of what it feels like. I think I asked God today, what is most important to you? What is the point that's most important to you that comes across? And what I heard is how much people are loved, that they're loved beyond anything you could ever imagine, because the love does not feel like anything that you feel here. Like you can feel so filled with love here, but the love you feel when you are connected to your own source, to your own being, to the presence of love, it's overwhelming. For me, it's overwhelming. For me, it is peace, it is joy. It's more of a state of mind, a state of being than a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It just you just resonate love and peace, and then faith comes along with that, and all of these other things, joy, that it is a way of being. And I don't think any of us are expected to stay in that state 24/7. I think it's really difficult to even think that we can do that. Um, However, that is who we are. And the
Right.
connectedness within, with yourself, whether you're connected to God, you're connected to yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
it's only one. These are difficult concepts that, that still, if I try to fit it into something I know in my human brain, it doesn't even come close to what the feeling, of state of being is, of being in that love.
Mm-hmm. Right. No. Yeah. It it's a fascinating area. But if you explore human potential,
Mhm.
right, there's from Star Trek, I guess it's like, the journey into the next territory. I think the next territory is within.
Uh-huh.
I think this is it. That's what we're talking about. And something interesting I found too is being a person who focuses on healing, who teaches healing and has been really focused on it for decades. um, Spiritual energy, which to me is love, the energy of love, the energy of connectedness, is the most powerful energy you can access for healing anything.
Mhm.
And so we're not talking about, it is actually, some people would say, then you're kind of out there like it's very airy fairy. This is not that. Actually, this is about the most practical thing I think that you could focus on, to me, when you
Mhm.
realize that if you can bring spirit fully into form, that's the best way to live. It's not just up here, it's actually bringing it down through yourself into your life, into your reality. And in the end, if you want to create a better world, into the world to help to shift the all of the hatred and fear and separation that are holding us back.
Wow. I don't think I, all of that is so important, what you're saying, Jane. Um, what I found is to take that information and know things, what divine love is, because you learn all of this information, this knowledge, but to sit and feel it is quite another thing. And when you're feeling yourself, divine love, um, God, it makes you want to keep going back. That's what makes you keep wanting going back, because you get a taste of it. It's sort of like a drug. How you get an addiction to something. It's addicted to love, addicted to the feeling, the sensation, the beingness of that presence. Nothing else feels like that.
Hmm. Right. But it's very practical, really.
Mhm.
It's actually, when you're in that kind of a place, you're in your most resourceful state actually for making the kinds of decisions that you need to make with your life. If you're in fear and you're coming from fear or anger or frustration, I think most of us can, if you really think about it, understand that that's not the best place to be if you want to be resourceful and creative. When you're in a very expansive, like anything is possible and everything is connected kind of a place, then much more is possible. And it really is, I think, if you look at return to love as a tip, it's a process. And it's not, I never look at it as an expectation. I don't measure how many minutes a day I'm connected versus separate, but I do know that I do know what the where I want to be to
Mhm.
live my life. And I think that's what you're saying too, is that, when you get there, it's like, this is where I want to be. And something I would say, if we're talking about this as a practical tip, is an easy thing to do any time of the day, anytime anything might be happening, um, is to just pause for a moment and step back from kind of that momentum, because people in general are usually in a momentum, like we're not in the present moment, right? We're kind of thinking, well, this is happening and that's happening, or I wish that was happening, that happened before. It's like we're anywhere except for in this moment where we are now. And it's really the simplicity of that we want. And what I found is the easiest thing to do is to pause for a moment and just take a few nice breaths. It's actually amazing how much you can change your state just by taking a few breaths, and then
Mhm.
focus on breathing love into your heart. Tap, also the thymus gland is right here. You can tap there. That
Mhm.
activates, it's your life energy is in the thymus gland. You can tap on it and just hold your hand. I've noticed also when I do
Yeah.
processes a lot of times with people and they get to that place of connectedness, then they just have their hands on their hearts and they feel the truth in their hearts, which is what we really want. So my suggestion is make it simple. Find something simple you can do that would bring you more to that place, and don't judge yourself for what else was happening,
Mhm.
because we're human.
Exactly. I so agree. For me, yes, holding your heart, putting your hand on your heart does bring you back. Your breath. What I notice also is my feelings. If I'm not feeling loving or I'm feeling otherwise, that's a tip for me. What's going on with me that I'm feeling other than the peace that I know I should be feeling right now or could be feeling right now?
Hmm. Right.
So my feelings are always a barometer of something to connect with and saying, what's happening here with me? Why did I just walk into another room in my head?
My head.
I just went into another room. Which room did I go into right now? Which story is in that room that created this feeling of not being peaceful? And every time I've talked to God about, I don't like walking into another room. I just want to stay here. Uh, he tells me it's okay. Like you said, don't judge yourself for it.
Yeah.
Just keep coming back.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it gradually it increases. I think that's my experience. I there's a um something that was taught in the 1900s about how you can change. And there are four stages to change. The first one being unconscious incompetence. Have you heard this before?
I don't think so.
Oh, the first one is unconscious incompetence. It's like not knowing what you don't know. It's like, and that's, so many people are just living fairly unconsciously. They
Mhm.
don't really know why they're doing most of the things they're doing most of the time. That's where they are. So then you decide, well, actually, I don't want to be in this place. What I'd like to do is I'd like to be in this more peaceful, loving place, or whatever it is. I'd like to have less stress, and this is a great way to release stress. You can't be in stress chronic, stress, and in a loving place at the same time. So then you are in a place of conscious incompetence. Like you consciously know that's what you want, but you're still not able to do it. You may not even have any idea how to do it. So you research and you find out information, you gain knowledge. And this is another really important point, I think, is that knowledge is not the end solution to things. Like a lot, you might say, well, I've heard that before. Well, of course you've heard that before. It's not like we haven't invented these ideas, although they came to us, from in our own ways. Um, but it is, a lot of people think once they know something, like you might read a book on stress reduction. You think, well, I've already been there. I've done that.
Uh-huh.
But what you need to do is start to apply it with a simple technique, whatever it is, like Deb suggested, just to remind yourself, well, I want to return here. And whether you want to start breathing or just look at hearts or whatever you want to do to take that step, then you become conscious. You go consciously incompetent, then you become consciously competent. So it's like, okay, I know now if I breathe and relax and just breathe loving energy and just let go, of whatever's happening that doesn't matter, then I'm going to feel better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's conscious competence. And if you practice that over time, you'll build new neural pathways in your brain, because we're in in this whatever it is that the road we're usually traveling that we don't want to. We want to build this new one. And then you get to a point where you're unconsciously competent, unconscious competence. So, in other words, where it just becomes natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's like much more that way. And I'm sure you feel that you're much more naturally that way than you were before.
Mm-hmm.
And as the more that we focus on that and build the strength in that area, the more unconsciously competent we are. So you might wonder, why are some people luckier than others? Like that person, everything works out for them. Nothing ever works out for me. That's a belief. And
Mm-hmm.
if you keep saying it, then you're on that road.
Right.
If you say, well, I can connect with divine love, and I know how,
Mm-hmm.
you travel that road. So I think that's very interesting. And Philip and I, we describe it as the difference between knowledge and being, like
Mm-hmm.
knowing the words or being the words. And
Mm-hmm.
what we want to do, and the reason to practice, and the reason for soulful living too, is to learn to be the words.
Yeah, it is. I love that 4-step process of going, and I know that's where I started. I When Jesus woke me up, I had no clue. I had no clue I was unconscious and incompetent. knowing how to be competent spiritually and consciously. So it is a process.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so much knowledge poured into me. You're talking about the knowledge and the being. I had so much knowledge poured into me. I didn't even understand most of the stuff that he was teaching me. It was just, way over my head. And and I wrote what he asked me with the messages he gave me in my books, and even after writing the books, I didn't understand that I wrote. And so I had to grow into it. And
Right.
it
That's what happens, right?
yeah, that's the process, exactly the way you're describing it. Is you The knowledge then becomes your being of experiencing it,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing all these different levels of awareness that you didn't have before, and knowing that you're not alone. So whatever is happening in your life, and I think that this time in our history, being called home and remembering to go home is really important. I think each person, that's part of our destiny, is that we are being called home. We're saying, hey, remember who you are, you've never left home. This is your real home, is within you, in your heart. That's where all this connection takes place. And it is so important to step up to the plate, I think, and really, we work so hard to learn other things, you know, to
Right.
to read things, to try different activities, hobbies, whatever it is, to we set goals for ourselves, but returning home is the most important thing that you could ever do, because it gives you everything that you're looking for, because you realize you are everything that you're looking for. Your wholeness has already been established. And a lot of us are looking to be whole or to be more, because we don't understand who we are. I started to think about, John the Baptist is one of the spirits I hear from, which I know is all God, but comes to me in John the Baptist as form. And I started thinking about his, when I hear about Christianity, uh, to repent, that was something that was said a lot back in his day. And is to repent. And I thought, repent really means, if you take it to a higher level of understanding, means return home. It doesn't mean stop sinning. It means return home. Come back home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really makes sense. Our interpretation of things like, those kinds of biblical references or
Mhm.
different things, a lot of times I think has led us astray because if we evaluate things from that very 3D perspective, we're not going to really grasp the significance of it. That's really interesting.
Mm-mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as soon as I started hearing that, because I'm not Christian, I'm Jewish, even though I'm not religious in any way, cultural Jew. But when I hear these things or see them, it just right away I'm like, no, repent means go home, come home, come back
Yeah,
to who you are, come back
right.
to your natural state, come back to your creator. You are creation.
Yeah. And it is really the transformation of our perspective on who we are, I think, is, that when you really look at it, that's the whole of the spiritual journey,
Mm-hmm.
is understanding who we are, and it is our limited perspectives on our potential that often hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not, I don't know enough, or whatever it is. I'm not tall enough, or I'm too old, or just all these really silly things that we tell ourselves. I'm inadequate, I'm undeserving, or I I don't have that connection somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But that state of connectedness, it is that it's there for all of us.
Always.
And it's interesting. Years ago, my husband Philip and I, we spent actually years trying to figure out how to connect with guidance. This was back in the 1980s, and it wasn't easy to find out. But we took a lot of different classes and studied different things, but they were all kind of obscure. Like, you have to do these different kind of meditations, and they were really complicated, and then you had to be very present and do all these different things, and really it's just connect with the love in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. And I think, the thing that I think is the most amazing is it's all built right into us.
Mm-hmm.
That our whole journey is built into us. Everything about us, physically and energetically, with the energy field, everything is significant, and it all, we're kind of building it. It's like we're a construction project, energetically, shifting from that place of limitation to a place of connectedness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautifully said. It is, once you awaken and you realize that who you are, um, because you've connected with divine love. It is like a deconstruction process, really,
Mm-hmm.
because we've constructed ourselves to be who we think we are based on all our experiences, right?
Right. And who
And
we're
and
told we are.
yeah, who we're told we are, what the world tells us we are, and who we
Right.
need to be, and how we need to be it. And once you awaken, it's a complete deconstruction of you. Uh, is getting rid of all of these concepts that we bought into. What I say, we drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We
Right.
believed all of these crazy things about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's a process that just takes time. So I want to make it clear that even though I know these things, even though I know what my being is, I know I am the presence of love, and that everyone else is, and so is everything in this world. uh, it doesn't mean that I don't have a bad day. It doesn't mean that I don't constantly have to be um, shifting myself back and back to home again, because the stories just energetically play over and over and over again. And you just get better and better at catching them and not feeding into them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
when, yeah, and then when you do, you just be really loving with yourself, and you say, okay, we'll just start over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Just you can actually start noticing that you have a part of you that's observing what you're doing,
Mhm.
and you may not even fully believe it, but it's just playing out. It's interesting. Sometimes I'm an emotional person, and I'm generally I'm generally pretty happy, and
Mhm.
things I'm and loving, I think. And um, there are times though when something will hook hook me, that will get me, and I can. Well, we were talking about it the other day. Actually, writing books, like toward the end of writing a book,
Right.
it just drives me crazy. It's just all the details and stuff, and I think something that I find very amusing is, I'll get into these states like, oh, I just can't stand this anymore. And Philip, he's so used to it. He'll just be looking at me and say, like, oh yeah, okay. It's kind of like I can tell he's not even buying into it. And then I see him not buying into it, and I part of me stops buying into it too. Like, look at her,
Uh-huh.
this silly person, all upset over a few words here.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But we do it.
Right. And
We
it's okay, it's okay to, if that's what's happening, that's what's happening. And then you want to return, to wholeness. But the first thing also is to observe it and notice how, in a way, kind of funny it is a lot of times. It's comical.
It is very comical. I actually say that, we are so hypocritical because there's two faces all the time, because you're constantly getting pulled out of your piece. And here comes this other part of you that, starts creating drama when there is no
Right.
drama. And so,
But that's all it knows how to do anyhow. So
yes.
that part of you.
Yeah. So it seems like, you could look at it and it's really hypocrisy. And if you can laugh at it, when
Mm-hmm.
you can laugh at yourself,
Yeah.
um and have more humor, which was one of my big lessons. I didn't know how to laugh. Everything was so serious, and I
Mm-hmm.
kept
Take things
hearing,
lightly.
yeah, take it lightly, laugh at yourself, laugh at everything, because um, it doesn't have to be serious. Whatever you
No.
think is serious, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And it doesn't, you don't have to judge yourself either. Just kind of enjoy understanding more about what's happening,
Mhm.
and let it go. It is if you're looking, I think we're looking also, many people talk about ascension and dimensional shifts, and if we're looking at a dimensional shift, it is a shift from fear to love. So those are two different realities, and within those realities, actually existence is also very different. So I think it helps just to be aware of that, and to see where you are. just observe. I think start noticing and start noticing what catches you. And again, when you think about it, breathe and focus on the love in your heart. Tap tap on your thymus, whatever, whatever does it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Being out in nature is
Mm-hmm.
wonderful too. Just connected, physically connected with the oneness of nature.
Mm-hmm.
It evokes that kind of an awareness. So it is. I think, above all, for this program and my work in general, I want everything to be practical for people.
Mm-hmm.
These are very lofty ideas, but they also are very practical.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, on the most practical level, if you can be in a happier, joyful, lighter, loving state, it's great for your health.
Mm-hmm.
And stress is a killer. If you don't know that and read a little bit about it, it's associated with almost every chronic disease imaginable, and
Mm-hmm.
and it also can even be fatal. So, and it's no fun. It's kind of like, why am I doing this?
Yes. Not fun. Not fun.
Right.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's really so easy to get caught up in the cycle of life. Sometimes you feel like you know, a hamster on a wheel. And the more that you have stress in your life or perceive things as stress, make things as stress, um, and it's a viewpoint, and a lot of it's all choices. So I went through probably all my life I've had stress, and then it got worse before I was awakened. And when you're under such levels of stress, you're releasing a lot of cortisol in your
Right.
body, and that is what we point as the problem that creates all these chronic diseases inside of ourselves is this release of adrenaline and cortisol that is not supposed to be. That's supposed to happen when you're in a trauma moment, but most of us
Right.
are not in enduring trauma moments most days of our lives. But yeah, being caught up in that stress, the daily stress of how to live life, um, and the way that you're perceiving it. And that all comes from really not being connected to love, not
Mhm.
being connected to divine love. Because the more you do that, the more you start to understand who you are. And you don't know who you are if you keep living in um, a daily stress wheel.
Right.
You don't have to live like that.
No.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't have
that
to
I
be.
found actually when I learned the process that we use, we call soul centering for connecting with the love in your heart. Very simple, and just breathing and connecting with that love. It changed my life almost instantaneously. I was under a lot of stress. I was an architect, unhappy with what I was doing. I didn't want to get up in the morning. When I started doing that, I started practicing it in the morning, and um within a week or very short time, I started getting really excited about getting up in the morning and realizing I had more choices than I thought. And like you said, it's a journey.
Mhm.
These things, everything takes time, but I think there can be those kinds of shifts that really, my life hasn't ever gone back where it was before since then. I can't wait to get up in the morning.
Mhm.
It's like life. You think of young children, it's like, oh, it's morning, I'm up. I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's wonderful, and it's interesting because I just had my fourth grandchild, and I look at her, and it's just pure joy, and I think this is who each one of us are, and we forgot
Right.
because none of us have changed. We're just have matured into an adult from a baby, but I look at her as the breath of God, complete love, and whole. And that is exactly who each one of us are. So when you look into a baby's face, you just know you're looking into your own self, the
Yeah.
joy of
Yeah.
just being, right? So find a picture of a baby. It works really well.
Yeah, you have for anybody who doesn't know, Deb has some really adorable ones on her website. I saw another one today, I think. Just they're so beautiful.
They are a treasure. And I shared them, not because I think she's just awesome and beautiful, of course, because she's my grandchild, but the pleasure that you get from just seeing
Right.
these pictures is amazing. I've even had people I don't know share them on their
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
oh, because
Yeah,
it's
and it is that's the thing. This these things that we're talking about, they aren't actually difficult, but they are specific. So if looking at a picture of a baby makes you feel happy, and another thing is happiness and love go together. So if you can find things that even just make you feel a little happier, then you're closer to love.
Mhm.
And so we have a couple short books we've written on love and happiness. And one of them is doses of love and happiness. Find ways you can feel more love and happiness during the day.
Yeah.
And if looking at a picture of a baby does it, then that's great.
Mhm.
I mean, it works for me.
It works for
And
me.
just little dogs. We have a couple little dogs that really make us happy.
Mhm.
And you can start writing a list of things that make you feel happy and do those.
Mhm.
Simple things. Have things that make you happy around you. Deb and I were sharing all of our little treasures before we started. Like I have this beautiful heart. It's
Mhm.
from Amazon actually. A beautiful. It's selenite, Selenite, and it's
Mhm.
a very high vibration stone. And you can see it's really it's just fascinating to look at it.
Uh-huh.
And I look at it, it makes me happy. So I have things like that around me.
Mhm. That's such a great advice because it is, at times, when you get pulled out of your head, like I said, into this room down a hallway that has rooms in it, and you're not sure which one you're going into at the moment, um, to have things around you that pull you out of your head, because getting stuck in your head is what creates all of those issues. And so having things to remind you, um, and even physically, when you're in one of those places, you're so in your head that if you just actually touch things around you, touch the furniture,
Mm-hmm.
um, ask for a hug, any of
Yeah,
those
hugs are good.
things, really good. It really brings you back. It brings you back to present because you're touching something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. I feel good.
I feel good too.
So any final points before we close? Feels like we've covered it.
I think so. I think, being quiet helps you connect to your heart. Your breath helps you connect to your heart. Feel the love that is within your own self, in your own heart, because it's one with divine love, with your creator. And it's there for you all the time. It is who you are that you keep forgetting. Uh,
And it's
and
free.
and it's free. It's just remembering to do it. Yeah. And I was given this mantra, well, a few of them the other day, but I really like this one. It's a affirmation or a mantra, whatever you want to call it, and I really like it. It is, I am the presence of God in this world. I see no reason to see me in any other way.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Or anyone else.
Well, thank you so much, Deb. That was really, it was fun and very energizing. And that's another way you can tell you're on the right track if it brings energy. And I wanted you to know too, if you want to know more about Deb, she has a beautiful website at debbiegoldberg.com. Debbie N. Goldberg, DebbieNGoldberg.com. You can find her books on Amazon. And what else would you like people to know that want to know more about you?
You can find me on Facebook, and if you're interested in learning more, working with me, you can private message me, or through my website, you can contact me as well. And my goal for this fall and winter is to work on the rest of my books so that I could be bringing you more beautiful messages, divine messages to help uplift you and help remember who you are.
Yes, and that is true. I really enjoy reading your messages on Facebook too. So
Thank you.
thank you, and thank you so much, Deb, for being with us. This has been really loving,
Yeah.
very very beautiful.
It is.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I've
Thank
enjoyed every
you.
minute. So I just want to, in closing, say to remember the keys and strategies we share on this show. The ultimate goal is to put them to use, as we've suggested, to create a more joyful, soulful, and fulfilling life. And if you enjoyed this show as much as we did, we hope you'll join us next week and invite some of your friends. It's also more fun and probably more likely that you'll follow through if you choose to make these kinds of soulful changes with some of your friends. So we highly recommend that. And as you add more of these soulful strategies to your daily routine, your life really can change in miraculous ways. I think it has for both of us. And remember, and this is an affirmation actually you can use too, is return to love. So that could be something you can write on sticky notes and just put around your house, on your refrigerator, or whatever. Um, and remind yourself it's something you can also consciously integrate into your memory bank so it comes up for you. And if you want to know more, you can find out about our courses for Awakenings Institute, courses, books, and other offerings on our extensive websites at gettingthrough.org, which is gettingthru.org/holistic. And we also want you to know that we and our guests value your support. You know how to reach Deb. And for Awakenings Institute, we also want you to know that tuition for our courses and other purchases support our mission of helping to create a more loving world. And if you can share the message of love with those around you, together, I believe we can change the world. So thanks again, Deb. And for everyone out there, have a wonderful week.
God bless. Bye bye.